All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Stoppage Time, and we are live on a Wednesday. The hackers did not get Facebook today, so we are live. The feed, I'm told, is working, and that's good news because that means we can take your questions on the fly today as we break down the last week for Atlanta United. 2 matches to get into, and then we'll start to look ahead to what's coming up over the next 10 or so days. I'm Mike Conti, Jason Longshore, Jimmy Vance. Stoppage Time brought to you by Aaron's, where you'll find the perfect choice for your budget and style with top-name brands in furniture, electronics, and appliances. Get started at Aaron's.com or visit one of the 47 Aaron's stores across the Atlanta area. So, last we spoke was before the Monterey match a week ago tonight, and Atlanta United won 1-0. Good result. Didn't go through on aggregate, but a good result. I think one that they can really hang their hat on. Then they turn around Sunday. They take a 1-1 draw to Philadelphia Union. So, I guess, guys, we've had a win that feels like a win and a draw that feels like a draw.
Well, some people would tell you the win that felt like a loss because you didn't go through on aggregate.
But, by the way, I'm starting to see some actual debate now that result should not count as a single match win.
Look, you can make up whatever rules you want. It's a win. It's a win in any league in the world. It's a win anywhere around the world. It's a win. Stop. The match, it's 2 matches. Yes, we treat it as 180 minutes over a full aggregate. It's 2 matches. There's 2 results. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, that shouldn't be a bad thing.
I actually think it speaks a little bit to how extreme to the negative some people are trying to go right now, that we're even going to have a debate over that.
Yeah,
that beating Monterey in a 90-minute leg does not count as an actual win. I think people are grasping at anything right now to, I don't know, try to come up with some ridiculous stat about how DeBoer hasn't won a match in a while or whatever. It's stupid. It was a 90-minute win. It's the first time Monterey has lost in this calendar year. They did turn around and lose to Cholos a couple days after that. But it was the first time that Monterey lost a match this year, the first time they've lost to an MLS team in 10 years. It's a good result. I think Atlanta United proved that they can put one of the better teams in the hemisphere on the ropes, especially when they play with that attacking mentality that we all know and love.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely counts. I think what Jason's talking about. I mean, you took one of the top teams, in North America and, really made them sweat a little bit. I mean, we almost got, a goal got disallowed. Would have been 2-0. That would have been a lot different a match in the last, 5-10 minutes. So, really great performance. I was there, really enjoyed it. Attacked for 90 minutes. It's what we want from an Atlanta United team.
Monterey made 2 changes. I've seen the other thing of trying to diminish that. They made 2 changes. They sat Maxi Meza, they sat Dorlan Pabon. They brought in a Mexican international in one of their places. And they brought in a young player to go with 3 center backs because you had a 3-0 lead. That's what you do in these situations. Did Monterey come out to try to score 5 goals? No, they didn't, because they didn't have to. But did they sit and just bunker and do nothing? No, that's not true either. And I think the fact that they had to work so hard on Wednesday night is what affected them in Tijuana, and that's why they went out there and lost. They've got a few questions right now because they're not scoring a lot of goals, and people are wondering why. One reason why? Miles Robinson. Miles Robinson shut down Rogelio Funes Mori over 180 minutes. He then went and shut down both Fafa Pico and Corey Burke at different points, 2 different challenges, and he's been able to adjust, and he gets the call up to the U23 squad with the United States, as he richly deserved.
Yeah, we'll talk about Miles a little bit more as we go on here on Stoppage Time today because he's been phenomenal. He's probably been Atlanta United's best player. Keep typing in your questions at the bottom of your screen. We will get to all of that. One final point on Monterey. I think what you just said there is important about how the work that they had to put in on Wednesday may have cost them a league result on Saturday. Doesn't this kind of reassert what we've been saying all along about the burden that comes with playing in CONCACAF Champions League, that the travel is a real thing. The lack of training is a real thing. Michael Parker said on the morning show this morning on 92.9 The Game, Atlanta United could not even do video on MLS opponents until the night before a league match because they were so tied up with CONCACAF matches and travel. It's a real thing. It's not just affecting Atlanta United.
No, it's difficult. Look, Champions League is a tough thing no matter what part of the world you're in. I think CONCACAF brings you some additional challenges to that you have more travel in CONCACAF than you do in the UEFA Champions League outside of those trips to Russia that do take you a long way. Hello, Facebook hackers. It's difficult. Look, it's a tough challenge. But Atlanta United gave up 2 goals last week in 3 matches. One of those was a deflection. One of those was a couple mistakes that were compounded, and we talked about that last week. Things are heading in the right direction, whether you want to look for them or not. I think they are. I think the numbers are backing that up. You should be feeling better about this team heading into this break, even with the Philadelphia result.
Yeah, let's get into that Philadelphia result, because Atlanta United statistically was dominant. 72% possession, 10 chances, outshot Philadelphia, had to settle for a 1-1 draw. Feels a little more positive than what happened against Cincinnati. I think more than anything else, it was a come-from-behind draw, and that helps. But it's like Frank de Boer said after the match. We were sloppy, and it's because we were tired. I think that's a valid argument. They were clearly tired.
Yeah.
And as a result, they were sloppy. And that sloppiness produced the Philadelphia goal in the 47th minute. Kind of a bad giveaway in zone 14. The sloppiness probably cost Atlanta United a goal or 2 themselves. It's a 1-1 draw. It's a fair result.
Philadelphia came in looking for a point. They got the point. That's all they were really looking for. They didn't do much going forward. They were more defensive than I expected. Marco Fabian out. Kind of get a little bit of that, but Brendan Aronson I thought was really good in his debut. I thought he brought a lot. They could have played more open. They didn't, because they didn't want to risk it. They were afraid of what Atlanta could do if they opened up more. And you're going to have this. This is not new. This has happened over the last 2 years. You have games like this where you dominate, you don't lose, you get a point, you move on. But now if you're Atlanta United, you have to go out on the road and you have to find 4 points because you've had 2 draws at home that you have to make up.
Yes, but I also think that what's happened over the first 3 weeks of league play is not quite as bad as 0-1 and 2 points really shows, because if you look at what happened in D.C., you're playing the team that appears to be the best in the league right now, if not the best in the East. I think
right now, yes.
Right now, today, probably the best team in the East, if not the entire league. And you went out there in very sloppy conditions. You gave up a goal on a corner late in the first half on a sequence where it was the third corner in about 30 seconds. It should have never started. It was a bad call that started it. You give up a deflected goal. It wasn't deflected. It just took a weird hop on Brad.
It's a bad goal to give up. Bad conditions.
Yeah, and honestly, you didn't really do enough to create chances.
No.
I'm not debating that, but I think you played at least well enough to earn a scoreless draw in D.C. It did not happen.
It was not a catastrophe.
It was not a catastrophe. No, not at all. I don't think the 2018 team goes in there in those types of conditions and gets a win easily, in my opinion. Okay, so you have that. You have the Cincinnati draw, which I think was the worst they've played all year.
Yes.
And yet you still had a pretty good shot to get 3 points out of that. And as it turns out now, Cincinnati might not be quite as bad as we thought, because they go out and they bomb Portland the next week. Philadelphia, I think we agreed that was probably the best they've played in league play. Philadelphia felt like they played kind of negatively.
100%.
Not very much initiative to go forward, get a goal. When they got the goal from Aronson, they really sat. Atlanta United, once they subbed in Barco, they broke that down. So I know there's a lot of negativity out there. A lot of people, kind of have the mindset right now that it's one guy's fault and things need to change. It's way too early, I think, to be going down that road. I think especially over the last week and a half, things have clearly been trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the criticism, it feels like we're getting torn apart every match and leaking goals.
There's
we're giving
nothing
away
to show that.
Yeah, and I just have a feeling that once this break, and it seems that our defense is looking good right now with Miles Robinson. Defense, they're not leaking goals like crazy, getting torn apart goals. But once that attacking gets clicking on all cylinders, then it's a whole different ball game, and we look like a completely different team. It's just, I think, to slow out of the gates, not shooting enough on target to create opportunities to score goals, and Joseph Martinez, he misses 2 opportunities that he could have buried, and the game could have been completely different.
The problem, though, is the opportunities are rare right now.
It is.
And that's something that needs to improve a little bit.
Not as plentiful as it should be. Although you had 12 shots, 2 on target. Need more on target. Last year, honestly, you were taking fewer shots and more on target.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now you're still figuring it out. You're still building the foundation of what you're going to be in 2019. And we've seen tactical variation in these last 2 matches that we had not seen up until this point because you couldn't. I mean, let's not forget, you talked about the lack of training, heavy legs, all of that. Throw the first game in Costa Rica out because you actually had a week until the next one. From February 28th until March 17th, you played 6 games. You played 6 games, traveled to D.C., traveled to Mexico, and back. And you played 6 games in 18 days. That's brutal. It shows. You're not in mid-season fitness. You're in early season fitness. You're not there yet. It shows. It showed a lot on Sunday, I thought. I think you played much better Sunday. The final bit of quality you needed wasn't there.
Too many shots from outside the box, do you think? Or do you
Last year, there were just as many.
But do you... Okay, let me put it a different way. We've seen Pitti on some free kicks try to...
Mm-hmm.
I don't say
free kicks, I don't care. It's from the run of play.
Yeah, okay, but let's address that. Because that's something that a lot of people are harping on right now. Has it been too much from outside the box, too many low percentage shots?
I will ask everybody to go to whoscored.com and go to last year's stats and look at how many shots Miguel Almiron took from outside the 18. And we talked about it during games. Mm-hmm. Miguel took a ton of shots from outside the 18, a lot of bad shots from outside the 18. Pity Martinez has scored those goals from outside the 18 at a better rate than Miguel Almiron in his career. So, let's not get things too twisted here. That happened a lot last year. Miguel, I believe, was in the top 10 in the league in shots from outside the 18. So, it's there.
It worked out okay.
Yeah, it worked out okay. Sometimes you have to take those to create opportunities. Pitti has also had the shot against Monterrey. If he drops a 40-yard bomb from the run of play in the first half, you're talking about something completely different. It's an unbelievable save from Baravero. Free kick off the edge of the wall. He's had chances of the one off the corner kick, too, out from the wing that barely went over. Thought the Monterrey game was maybe the best we've seen of Pity Martinez.
Yeah.
It's easy to start twisting these things to say, well, everything's terrible. It's not.
Yeah.
It's just not. Miguel Almiron took as many shots from outside the 18, if not more.
It is a consequence, though.
Absolutely.
I love the passion, and it's totally fine. And I can only imagine what kind of questions we're getting. We're going to get to that in a second. The passion's fine. Like, we're not saying you're wrong to feel a certain way.
Right.
You're absolutely entitled to your opinion. But I think what we have right now, unfortunately, is you win a title. You've been told that CONCACAF's a very, very important thing for the club, and it is.
It is.
You got a really tough draw.
Yeah.
And now the expectations up here, the achievements like here, it's not that bad.
Flat out, you were an underdog against Monterrey.
Right.
Anybody who thought you were the favorite in that series was wrong.
The 2018 team would not have beaten Monterrey. I think
they might have beaten them, but they would have been the underdog going into it. That's the thing, is if you played them in midseason, it's different. Right now, with the changes, and against a team of Monterrey's caliber, you were the underdog going in, and it was 3-1. It was about what the bookies would have expected. Mm-hmm. It was about what any experts would have expected in that series. Maybe 2-1 is what it should have finished. Maybe. 3-1, not a big deal. You did well in the second leg. You didn't do well enough. Flat out.
Even in the first leg, soft penalty, and then
2 goals against
just
a tired team.
Completely ran out of gas in the last 10 minutes, but in open play, you were right there with them the whole way.
I'll say it again. I've said it consistently. If I'm going to criticize Frank de Boer over an action, it would be the substitutions or lack thereof in that game. Yeah. That's the one that I felt like maybe he saw something that we didn't. Maybe he saw something that just wasn't there, but he stuck with a group too long. And I think it cost the 3rd goal.
Well, and it's like we talked about on SDH today, that I think the one thing that will come with Frank, the more time he spends with this group, is he will have a better feel for his players, for the team. To me, my opinion, in Monterrey 2 weeks ago tonight, he did not have a very good feel for what was happening as players were running out of gas and he did not make a substitution. I think that's something that will come.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's another consequence to having to go through what Atlanta United has gone through right now. So much travel, so much lack of training. You haven't been able to develop that managerial to player chemistry. And the other thing, too, is you've had to go through all of this without Franco Escobar, and most of it, almost all of it, without George Bello. Those are massive losses.
Huge losses.
Massive.
They limit you in what you can do. But he's shown in these last 2 games some pretty creative tactical moves in match to shift things around and try to take advantage. And I feel like they've worked. I feel like the team ended better than it started in these last 2 matches with those moves.
And we're going to get to that in a second on the whiteboard. First, though, let's take a question brought to you by Country Financial. Don't get overwhelmed. Get started at takesimplesteps.com and keep bringing your questions into us on the bottom of your screen. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Let's see, you got a question here. How underrated is Miles Robinson? I don't hear anyone outside of our media covering him.
Very, very slow, but it's starting.
Yeah.
He's incredibly underrated. He was underrated at the end of last season. I had the chance to see him with the 2s, and that gave me a different perspective. I saw that maturity coming from him. I didn't expect he'd start this season so hot. I mean, when we talked about it in Costa Rica, and we know he's going to be in the lineup, it's like, okay, that's a big ask, but okay. What we had seen, we're like, we get it. And he's performed, and he's performed every game. I hadn't heard anything about national team for him until this U23 camp started. And thankfully, they finally got it out there and announced and got everything done. And Jason Kreis will be in charge of this team for a couple games. I think he'll probably play 1. It's 2 games on a Friday and a Sunday coming up. It's about a 23-man squad, if I'm not mistaken. I figure everybody will play in it because you don't know when the qualifying is going to be. It's either going to be the end of this year or early in 20. So this is a chance for Kreis to see the group and see the mixtures of it. I'd love to see him with Cameron Carter-Vickers and see what he can do in that group. But speed, agility, strength is something that maybe is new this year that we hadn't seen as much of. Passing ability. Stop saying he can't pass. Stop saying he's not comfortable with the ball at his feet. He is. He's a complete center back.
Yeah, it feels like he's got an athletic toolbox that we haven't really seen too much from an Atlanta United player, where he has that agility that you talked about, but he's also a big guy.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got a little bit of thickness too. So he can be a target on set pieces because he's tall. He can track back a lot better than most other center backs in MLS just because of his height and the ground that he covers.
Look at your best center backs. I mean, Ike Opara, he's got some of that range. Aaron Long doesn't quite have that range, but he's a pretty athletic guy. Miles is right there.
Yeah,
I think Miles has been the best center back in Major League Soccer in the first month.
Well, and like you said, people are starting to catch on to him now. That's the good thing. We've been hearing a lot. I guess Warshaw's getting on it now. Matt Doyle, for what it's worth, the MLSsoccer.com people, they're starting to talk about it.
They're listening to the broadcast now. It's good.
Are they?
I'm guessing.
Yeah, they'll never admit it. Next Country Financial question. Go ahead.
Let's see, from John Hammonds. Should we be concerned about the reports from Argentina that Pitti isn't happy here?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I saw this earlier. Look, you're losing a lot of context when you say that and when things are getting translated. Why would he be happy right now? Team's not playing really well. He expects more. He's not playing really well. He expects more. There's not a lot to be ecstatic about. No, that doesn't mean like he's not happy in the United States. It doesn't mean he's not happy with Atlanta United.
No.
That's the thing, is you're losing all of the context.
Right.
So if he said, look, he's not happy right now, that could mean he wants to play better. That could mean he wants to win more games. It could mean a lot of things. And also the Argentine media is looking for reasons to trash MLS in that move.
Yes. He is struggling, though.
Absolutely.
And I look, we can go down this wormhole of if the report's even true, and if so, what's making him unhappy. I'm not going to go there, but
I don't have the context, so I don't know.
Right.
But he's struggling.
100%.
You're not going to be happy if you're struggling. He is struggling. Let's talk about why is he struggling. And I think, again, it's one of those deals where he had to play in Club World Cup. You bring him over here, he gets no off season. Okay, that's tough. These guys are humans.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. Okay, no off season. He, as a result, has struggled to get 90 minutes fit. They were very, very cautious with the way that they used P.T. Martinez in the competitive preseason matches that they played. You get into CONCACAF Champions League, he's still not 90 minutes. You play him as a sub at DC, not 90 minutes. He's still not really 90 minutes there yet. That makes it tough to build chemistry with Barco, with Joseph, with Gressel, with Nagby, with everyone. It's tough because fitness-wise, he's had to go through a lot. It is reminiscent to a degree of what Barco had to go through last year before he got hurt at the end of training camp, where negotiations got drawn out. You have to rush him up to Orlando kind of at the last minute of training camp. It's a very disjointed training camp. Then he gets hurt. That's not in Pitty's control, but I'm sure it's frustrating.
You see transitions being difficult sometimes, and this is just where you're at right now. He's a player who thrives when he's comfortable. He's not comfortable right now. We don't know if it's just fitness, if that's part of it, if it's just a new country. We don't know these things yet. I've seen enough flashes, and I know his quality. He's going to come good, hopefully soon.
Yeah. Okay. Good questions. We'll take more later on. Thank you very much for that. Let's go to the whiteboard now. I think there's been a lot of chatter about, well, Atlanta United didn't play with wingbacks on Sunday, or they played with too many center backs, or they were playing in the diamond and they shouldn't have, or the formation was goofy, or whatever. It felt to us like Frank de Boer just went with his 11 best players, his 11 most fit players, and said, okay, let's go out and go play against Philadelphia.
I think there was more thought than that. I actually think that it was very thoughtful in what he did and the adjustments he made. But let's go back to Monterrey. Let's go back to that one too. So you're in a 3-4-3. Against Monterrey, you've got your wingbacks, and you've got your two here. Okay. So that was your starting shape against Monterrey. Against Philadelphia, it's a little more tucked in. Really different. Really crazy. So what happened against Monterrey, or actually let's do the Philly game first. So you're narrow, right? Who was Philly's player that we talked about that was on the ball the most touches, most passes in the first two games? Kai Wagner, the left back. Okay, so Julian Gressel was here. He was tucked in as much as possible, but when they attacked, he's out wide. Okay, you slide over. Eric Remedi slid over when they attacked down the right, which was incredibly infrequent. You didn't need anything over here because Raymond Gaddis wasn't attacking. Philadelphia in their first two games showed very little initiative to attack down the right side. So, you're narrow. You're not getting enough. You're not getting everything you want. What do? Gressel slides here. Parker slides here. You go to 4, and you go to 4-4-2. Pretty simple. Pitty up top. You're trying to get Pitty in more of a free role here. Best chance of the first half comes from Parkhurst stepping up. Through ball to Pitty, cross off the crossbar. Okay. So you're starting to get things happening there. It's first half, so you're not going to make a sub for a left back. A lot of people thought, well, you have to make it at halftime. First half, Philadelphia really didn't hurt you much except for your own turnovers and transition. So you're going to keep rolling with that. You don't want to blow a sub yet. You give up a goal off of a bad turnover over here, cuts across, goal. Remedi was slow to step at the end of it. He got caught. The turnover is what hurts you more than anything. And in the tired legs, transitioning wasn't good enough. Transition has to continue to improve. So then, as you're trying to open up more, you go to the 4-2-3-1, which we have seen many times. And it was successful. It had a hand in getting your goal back. You also brought on a left back for Michael Parkhurst. This is not uncommon in the world anymore to shift formations this much. It's pretty typical from top teams because, like you said, you're trying to get your best 11 players on the field in a shape that makes sense. Let's talk about the U.S. national team and something a lot of people have been riled up about when it was announced. Let's get their shape. It's more of a 4-1-2-3. Tyler Adams. He's going to play right back. He's not a right back. He has played right back, actually. Jesse Marsh played him at right back for the Red Bulls. It's not a traditional right back, because what's going to happen? He's going to slide in here in possession. You've got these two. You've got Pulisic and McKinney. slide, slide, slide. And it turns into a 3-2-2-3. What this does is you get extra help in for either Bradley or Trapp. Adams is here. You've got Pulisic, McKinney able to go. You've got your 3 forwards able to go. This is like a ball-dominant type of setup. They expect to control possession. That's what Greg Berhalter thrived on with Columbus. That's what he's going to try to bring to the national team. This type of move is a type of thing that we could see with Atlanta United because you're trying to dominate possession. The moves that you saw against Philadelphia were all about, we're going to dominate possession. There's no question about that. How do we exploit it? What can we use to exploit this? You're going to see situations where Parkhurst or LGP slides outside because you can do that in that match. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia was extremely narrow in every match they played this season. And I know there's been average position as something we talk about sometimes in our Opta stats as we go through them. Average position, I've seen the graphic out there about this past match. You changed the formation 3 times, so I mean, we talked about it. Average position goes out the window because you're not in the same shape for 90 minutes. You're going to see a lot of shifts. This is what Pep Guardiola has done at every stop he's been at. This is what Antonio Conte did at Chelsea. This is what top managers do. Unai Emery has done this at Arsenal. It's very common now to see a team move the pieces around because you're playing to your philosophy. Atlanta United's philosophy is to dominate possession. When you're dominating possession, you can get into a shape like we saw to start. And I've seen it described as a diamond. I thought it played more like a very flat diamond, more like a pyramid or a triangle, because I thought Gressel and Remedi were tucked in and pretty deep with Lorenowitz. Nagbe was here. It wasn't effective. We didn't see the same out of Nagbe in the first half against Philadelphia that we saw at the end of the Monterrey game. So you move the pieces around to try to get more out of it, and you did. You created your best chance. Then you move pieces around again to keep going forward, and you do. That's what you do. It's not the old days that I grew up in where I was a right winger in a 4-4-2, and I wasn't allowed to go in here at all. You're running the channel. You're running the channel all day. That's all you do. Those days are gone. You have to be able to play multiple positions. You have to be able to do different things, and you have to be able to adjust on the fly. I think Frank de Boer, with more time training, you're going to look more comfortable. Julian Gressel talked about it. Mm-hmm. He said, look, we didn't change the way we played. We changed our shape, but we played the same way. You're moving the pieces around to try to create advantages or take advantage of mismatches. That's what you're doing. It's very common.
I think one thing we can definitely tell from here, and you've done a good job illustrating it, is the notion that Frank de Boer is tactically inflexible. I think we can pretty much dispel that now based on what we've seen the last 2 matches.
The last 180 minutes, he's played 3-4-3, a very traditional 3-4-3 to start against Monterrey. What was the first shift against Monterrey? You didn't go to a true 3-5-2. There was an intermediary step where you went to the 4-2-3-1 with Nagbe as your 10. Then Philadelphia, I mean, you went 3-4-3, but a different way of playing a 3-4-3 because you can play it without wingbacks. It does happen. And then you went to a 4-4-2 that was flat, and then you went to a 4-2-3-1. Those are all very different, and the players picked up on it pretty quick. Right. And the players used those changes to take advantage of Philadelphia, saying, what's happening? Why is Michael Parkhurst over here? What are we doing?
All right, while you're at the board, we're going to assume that Franco Escobar could be back for Columbus. It sounds like he's really, really close. In fact, if you did not see it today, the club tweeted a video of him banging a Golazo in training. So it looks like he's really close. That's a good sign. Let's also assume that Bello is 90 minutes fit for Columbus. Okay? So that means everyone's back. All right? You're not worried about all the travel and everything. Let's just say Atlanta United's full 90 minutes fit. Everyone's good. So what would you, in your opinion, say is the best way for Frank de Boer to deploy his best 11 players on a given match day?
Let's take it to the New England game because I think Columbus with international and stuff, it could be a little wonky. Let's go New England. You have the true full week to do it. 4-1-2-3. And I think you can get into semantics over it, and I'll explain it. Franco Escobar at right back. I think he's your best right back. He's your true right back. In the middle, you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision on your two best center backs. And Miles Robinson's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can take him out of the lineup at this point. Leandro Gonzalez-Pirez, Michael Parkhurst. You have two options. You can do a lot of what I think Greg Berhalter is going to do with the national team and play all three of them in a lopsided 4-1-2-3, where it would be, I would assume, Robinson, Parkhurst, LGP, not as a traditional left back, but tucked in a little bit. That would mean Escobar would go a lot, and that would mean they would slide when he does. So if Escobar's going, you're trying to create a mismatch here, and you've got everything covered. That would mean, or you go George Bello and you go traditional. That's your two options there.
Okay.
So somebody's going to have to sit out of Robinson, Parkhurst, Gonzalez-Pirez, Bello/Shea/Ambrose. Somebody's got to sit out of that group. Rometty here, Jeff Lorenowitz is your cover as the number 6. Nagbe as your 8/10. I would like to see it more like this. If you're going to dominate possession in the other team's half, you want Nagbe up high. I want Barco in here. I want Barco on the ball as much as possible. I think he's a facilitator. Pity Martinez is going to benefit from that, from Barco, as opposed to Pity Martinez picking up the ball here and having to go and make something happen. You want Pity at the end of a run from Barco with a pass. And Barco said he's comfortable being the guy who's always looking for the assist. He's not looking for a bunch of goals. That's not his game. Nagbe is the same thing. Nagbe will probably be a little deeper. Barco will be a little more advanced. Joseph, Gressel, or Tito, and it's going to be form, and it's going to be matchup, and Pity. That's the way I would look at it. Now, the weird thing is if you do decide, and it's not crazy, to have your 3 center backs off center with Franco Escobar, and then you're going to go down the right side a lot. You're going to dominate possession. You're always going to look to release Escobar, and you're going to look for him to combine with the right winger and potentially Nagbe sliding over here. You're looking for mismatches that way. More traditional way is Bello or Shea or Ambrose as your left back.
So if it's not Bello Ambrose, if it's, as you said, maybe offset Parkhurst, Miles Robinson, LGP, are they even trying to play down the left?
At times, because you want to keep teams honest. We saw Parkhurst actually.
He can do it. I mean,
he did pretty well.
He actually did a pretty good job.
He did.
He did a pretty good job.
I was very impressed with Parkhurst as a left back, but you will see it sometimes. And we've seen LGP make his runs into the attacking half and be dangerous in it because, okay, let's say you do that. Let's say you're traditional, and instead of going down the right this time, LGP goes. All right, his run is generally not going to be out here, as Franco's would. His run is going to be this way. So then Pity drifts out. He gets into space. Then you've got Barco. Then you've got Joseph. Then you've got Nagbe cleaning up here. Then you've got the back post. That's a pretty good set of 3 running if you have Pity on the ball inside the attacking half, out on the touchline, and you have LGP making the near post run, Joseph free in the middle, and either Gressel or Tito on the back post. That can be effective too. LGP's got that skill set.
What's the big point, though, that we're trying to make in all of this? Franco Escobar is really, really key to giving Atlanta United a lot more flexibility.
Opens up a lot of
a
doors.
lot more going forward. And I think this is something that I'm not going to say we've selectively overlooked it. I'm not accusing anyone of doing that. But I think it's very easy to take for granted what Franco Escobar does. And I will tell you again, there is no star over the crest if not for what Franco Escobar did in last year's MLS Cup playoff. Sounds like he's really close. And that is very, very big for Atlanta United. If you get him back for Columbus, great. I tend to agree with you, Jason. It doesn't feel like this is going to be all the way back until you get to New England, because after you play Columbus, you have another bye, basically a scheduled bye. But the good news this time is there's no international break.
10 days for
10
everybody.
Days. You can be together for 10 days. You can train for 10 days. Stay healthy during those 10 days, obviously. If there's a little La Banda stuff where maybe everyone goes to Fogo or whatever, that's great too.
After working on that a lot.
After
working on some crazy creativity, then you can go eat all the Brazilian food you want.
Yeah, oh God. making me hungry. All right, let's kind of reset here. Glad you're with us this afternoon on Stoppage Time Live, and we'll take some more of your questions in just a moment. We're kind of taking a look back at what's happened over the last week, but also really starting to look ahead now because it's a very busy week for a lot of Atlanta United players. And then it's going to be a very, very busy week next week leading up to that Columbus match. A lot of people are going to have to travel back to Atlanta. The fortunate thing is it's not like you're playing at Colorado or at RSL or anything. Columbus is one of the shorter trips that Atlanta United will play all year. I do want to tell you, though, that Stoppage Time Live is brought to you by Aaron's. And can I talk to that camera? Because that's where my cue card is. Is that possible? Okay, cool. Stoppage Time Live is brought to you by Aaron's, where you'll find the perfect choice for budget and style with top-name brands in furniture, electronics, and appliances. Get started at Aaron's.com or visit one of the 47 stores across the Atlanta area. We have like a little light thing, like a light bright. That tells us. You remember Light Bright?
Yeah, no, Light Bright was awesome.
Light Bright.
Man,
that tells us what camera we're supposed to look at, and I might be like partially colorblind or something like that because like this camera is blue, that camera is green, and like blue and green look very, very similar to me on this egg thing. So I'm gonna have to go see my optometrist.
Well, let's get Minna like the.
Change it.
Yes,
no, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, like you could.
We need the runway flares.
Flares would be good.
So you can point that way.
Or you can make like one light of cheeseburger, one light of pizza. I mean, God knows that's all I care about, right? All right, where do we want to go here, guys? Should we take some questions?
Let's get some questions.
Yeah, let's definitely get some questions. This is nice. We don't have to preview a match this weekend, so we have a lot of time to take questions. Once again, all your questions today brought to you by Country Financial. Don't get overwhelmed. Get started at takesimplesteps.com. Go ahead, Jim.
A question from our friend, long-time listener, Shiva.
All right.
Is it fair to say Almiron's loss has impacted this team more than a new coach and new system?
Yeah, that's a fair way to say it. I mean, he gave you a simple out. The simple out was use his speed. Speed trumps tactics. Speed trumps philosophy. Speed trumps bad form. You always have speed. Miguel Almiron gave you that, and we saw it in the postseason. You know, he came back from injury in the postseason. He wasn't fully fit until probably the very end. You changed your tactics, so that was a work in process, but you always had Miguel Almiron and his speed to break and flip a game on its head. You don't have that now.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that Shiva asked that question, too, because Shiva on Stoppage Time, not on Stoppage Time, on the full-time report Sunday had brought up that, well, now, wait a minute. I mean, Atlanta United's not playing as well as the other CONCACAF teams, Houston, New York Red Bulls, and Sporting Kansas City. And I would dispute that notion a little bit, number one. But number two, the point that I tried to make was SKC, Red Bulls, and Houston are not breaking in new managers.
Yeah. And
they're not replacing their number 10s.
Yeah.
And I think that might be more significant than anything else. Now, Red Bulls, there's some weirdness with Kaku right now. Whatever's going on there, I don't know. But I would also dispute the notion that Red Bulls are playing clearly better than Atlanta United. I don't think that's true.
Red Bulls should have beat Santos Laguna, and not even from what they did in the second leg. They should be a better team than that. Santos Laguna is not a top team in Mexico right now. They're not Monterrey. They're not Tigres.
I think if Atlanta United, right now, based on what we've seen, if Atlanta United plays Red Bulls on a neutral field, I think Atlanta United is probably winning. Honestly, of those three American-based MLS clubs, other than Atlanta United that were in CONCACAF, the one that I think would be the most challenging matchup for Atlanta United right now would be Houston.
I agree.
If they're healthy.
Yep.
And clearly we saw that last year in March. When they were healthy.
Yeah.
When they were healthy.
Houston's
we
a good
saw
squad.
the problems that caused. So, anyhow, thank you for the question, Shiva. What
this is kind of talking with our tactics with Jason. From Lewis, is it fair to say that the 4-3-3 will be more comfortable with Escobar back and shift Pitti? He's asking to a number 10 position, possibly. I
don't know where Pitti as a 10, other than that's the number he wears, is coming from, because he played the most at River Plate on the wing. Like that's where he's a little more comfortable.
Don't you think there was a narrative? Incorrect, but a narrative by some of the mainstream media in this town that Pitti for Almiron was a like-for-like replacement.
Maybe. It shouldn't have been, because they're very different players. I mean, let's just take the very simple way of how they want the ball. Pitti wants it to his feet. He wants stationary, play the ball to my feet so I can go play. Miguel wanted it in space where he could go run. That's a huge difference. I mean, that's as basic as it gets, but that's as two different players you can get. It's the way they approach the game. Pitti wants the ball to dribble past you. Miguel wants to run past you. Very, very different. And Pitti's more comfortable out wide and coming inside. But look at lately when he's had freedom to go find the game. Where's he gone? He's drifted out wide to the left. Mm-hmm. That's what's natural for him. I think the team's better with Barco central and Pitti out wide. Now, there's going to be opponents where you can mix that up because of what you have to work with. There's going to be opponents where Nagbe can play out on the left, Pitti and Barco can play together. There's going to be opponents where you want Nagbe central with Pitti and Barco out on one side. You might flip it up and bring Andrew Carlton in for a game. You might bring Gressel in for a game. You might bring Tito in for a game. There's so many different things you can do, but I don't think Pitti long-term is a number 10 centrally. Just don't see it.
See, actually, here's a comment here from our friend Nick Leafy, a.k.a. the Garlic Bread Warlord. Absolutely. He says, I think some people are looking at this like some kind of astrophysics equation that needs to be solved. Time, rest, and training are what fixes Atlanta United's issues.
100%. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you want to lose weight, you diet and you exercise. It's not that hard. Like, you don't go to some psychologist who tries to hypnotize you into, waking up at a certain time every day and that'll help you lose weight. No, it's diet and exercise. When you want to drive a car, it's as simple as turning the key and making sure gas is in the tank. It doesn't have to be this hard. And like when Parkhurst said that this morning to John and Hugh, that they have not even been able to do video until the night before league games, that was a huge kind of open your eyes moment for me. And we knew this was tough because we've been traveling with them. Mm-hmm. We've been around them a lot. We've been around this team more in the last 3 weeks, kind of all compressed at once than at any other point since I've started doing this, and probably you as well. We've been around them a lot. Trust me. They're going through a very hectic schedule right now, and a lot of it is wasted time in airplanes and buses. Frankly, that is wasted time. You cannot do video. I mean, I guess everyone could pull out their laptops and do whatever video there is, but
the coaching staff has to do it first.
The coaching staff has to do it first.
They have to go through everything themselves before they give video to the players.
I mean, you're not going to pull out the leg rollers on Swift Air and the resistance bands and have guys doing stretches in the aisle.
Don't think there's room for that.
No. Unfortunately, it's been wasted time. And that's where I think Nick is spot on with all of this, where it stinks that you've got a lot of guys overseas this week. It's a lot, and it's substantial, important people, too.
Do you think they would have trained more this week other than 2 days if they weren't? I don't think so either.
But I'm talking more about next week, getting, if Pitti goes to Morocco, getting him back from Morocco.
Yep.
Getting Carlton and Miles back from Spain.
They should be done Sunday, so they might be back Tuesday in training, so that helps.
Yeah.
Joseph is done Friday with Venezuela because they don't play a second game.
Right.
He should be back for training early next week. And if you start training Monday with more fitness, regen type of work, Tuesday with tactics, with what you have to work with, you're back into a normal routine.
Yeah. By the way, we need to revisit with Nick the question we pondered on SDH this morning about the next non-European or South American nation to win the World Cup. That was a very fun discussion. One more.
Let's see. This one's from Twitter from Zeke here. He says, is it panic time or time to be concerned and honest that things aren't working out yet?
They're not working out yet. I mean, they're not perfect yet, but what do you do? You blow it up now? Is that where we're at? Is that where we want to do?
Zeke has...
But let me ask that. Okay, what do you do if you if it's time to blow it up and none of it's working?
Well, who are you going to bring in, Zeke? I'm not trying to be a jerk.
Jason Kreis? That's what I'm saying. But then you're set back again because you've started building on something. Then you have somebody new come in, do something different. Then you've set everything back.
I think the problem is that Frank was handed trying to come up with a very delicate term for
I want to see where you're going to go with this.
Dirty. You remember the South Park episode when they were choosing a school mascot?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know where you're going yet.
All right. So he was handed that sandwich
at
Palace.
Well, okay.
Okay, he was handed that sandwich at Palace. And no one, I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson would not have been able to turn around Palace in that short a span of time.
So he was handed that pasta in Inter Milan? Is that what you're telling me?
He was handed, yes, a very al dente, undercooked pasta at Inter Milan.
With a horrible topping.
Yes, with Alfredo sauce, which is a disgrace. And, like, no manager can turn things around in that span of time. And
Okay.
I think people have been...
Wait a minute, I have a question, though.
Okay.
What was he handed here?
He was handed a deconstructed... he was handed an open-faced sandwich. Okay, it's deconstructed. It's a little bit messy.
I like that. That's good.
Because it hasn't been assembled yet.
Right,
All
okay.
right? Basically, what you did is you took... Okay, this is fun. We can do a food analogy. All right. So you gave Frank a club sandwich, all right? You know how a club sandwich is built, right? Where it's basically two sandwiches on top of each other. There's a piece of bread in the middle.
Yep.
Okay. You took that piece of bread in the middle out.
Okay.
So now, with the sandwich still assembled, he has to insert a new piece of bread in the middle without letting the ham and the turkey and the bacon and the lettuce all fall out.
Okay.
Okay.
So Miguel's the piece of bread.
Miguel's the piece of bread.
Okay, got it.
Okay?
Just wanted to make sure.
All right. So you gave him the sandwich from South Park at Palace. He didn't last very long. Okay.
No piece
you
of bread
gave him
saving that one.
Alfredo sauce at Inter, and he couldn't last very
Nobody
long.
wants that.
And with all due respect to Zeke, and thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and we really appreciate the feedback. I really just so emphatically disagree with what Zeke has been pushing, which is the DeBoer out hashtag.
I disagree.
But here's the problem. Okay. First of all, where was the DeBoer out hashtag created? When he was at Palace, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's the thing. People are holding it against Frank that he hasn't won a league match in however long. He had, which, by the way, I guess Champions League does not count.
No,
I guess Champions
not
League does not count anymore. You're holding prior stints against him that no manager could have fixed in as short a span as Frank was given. Okay? And can we honestly sit here and all look at each other and honestly say that since 2 weeks ago tonight in Monterey, or I'll even go shorter, since a week ago Sunday against Cincinnati, that this has not gotten better? I can't honestly say that. I don't think anyone can say that.
You can run through the schedule. You lost in Costa Rica. Lots of MLS teams lose there. You came back. You turned it around. Played a good match against Herediano in the second leg. Then you go to D.C. 2 days later. 3 days later, sorry, 2 days in between. And you lose to a team that's leading the Eastern Conference in their park, a place you've never won in that city anyway.
Yeah.
You didn't get the job done. Then you go to Monterey. You battle well for 75 minutes. You let it go at the end, and that's one that I still think substitutions should have happened. It affected the result. That's fine. It happens. Mistakes do happen. Cincinnati should have put the game away. You didn't. But you controlled it for the overwhelming majority of it. Monterey at home, you controlled that match, could have gotten a second one. I don't think there were 3 goals in it for you. You did beat Monterey for the first time in 2019. Then Philadelphia, you should have put that game away. Yes. You gave up a sloppy goal. This is not going out and losing 3-0, 4-0 every game. This is, you should be a little bit better in each game to get results. That's where you're at right now. The thing about it's terrible, it's awful, it's broken. Come on, folks. Go ask San Jose what they want right now. And Matias Almeida is not getting this type of criticism.
Yes.
And Matias Almeida is trying to remake. I don't know if Frank got a sandwich, a club sandwich. I don't know what Matias Almeida had to work with.
An empty plate.
Like the old Wendy's salad bar that was rotten for a while.
Do not be slandering the Super Bar.
No, it was great, but he got the rotten one.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
He got the one that's been sitting out for too long.
I will not tolerate Super Bowl slander.
Man.
Super Bar slander. I can't even pronounce it.
So Frank DeBoer, he lasted at Crystal Palace 5 games, and he was in charge for 77 days.
It's an embarrassment.
Right now,
by Crystal Palace.
Right. He's 7 matches in Atlanta United, and he's been in charge 87 days. So he was gone 10 days ago and 2 matches ago on a Crystal Palace.
Lunacy.
You know how crazy that is.
Yeah.
Where's Crystal Palace these days? How great are they doing?
Yeah. But I think this is and like I don't want to get into Zeke's head because I don't know exactly where he is. But unfortunately, I think what happened in the Premier League has affected the point of reference that some Atlanta United fans have on Frank DeBoer, and I don't think that's fair.
No.
I don't think that's fair at all. it's just not fair. I don't even know what to compare that to.
There's nothing.
I'm trying to think of something.
There's nothing. I mean, even 5 games in Argentina, as crazy and toxic as the environment is in the league there at times, you're getting more than 5 games.
Yeah.
Like and when you're coming, you've been brought in to change the culture and go from a club that is trying to hold on to a club that is trying to play and be a mid-table team. Doesn't happen overnight. They said they'd give him 6 months, then they pulled it. It's as bad as it was when Swansea fired Bob Bradley, because they brought him in and he managed that team. And maybe he was told something and he didn't understand it. I don't think that's the case. But he managed that team as trying to build something. He didn't get to the transfer window. Frank de Boer was told he was going to build something. Everybody's on the same page, and then it's yanked out from under him. You can't build something in 6 weeks of a season. It's impossible. You have to be given time. He is changing the way this team plays. I think you're trying to get from a perspective of last year. I know everybody loves what happened with the championship, but Atlanta United made a decision after the game in Toronto. Tata Martino made a decision. We can't play this way and win. We cannot win the trophy by playing the way we've played for 2 years. And they did it, and they lifted the trophy. But you go watch those postseason games and compare them to games earlier in either season.
They're not comparable.
It's not comparable. No. Now, that's a credit to Tata Martino for realizing that and having the guts to do it at that stage. That's an incredible coaching achievement. Frank de Boer is trying to build this style from where it was before, and before the postseason, taking the evolution from 2017, high press, lots of energy, to possession, to controlling games, now taking that to the next degree and to the next level. More possession, more control of games, less risk, and dominate games that way so you don't have to change when it comes to the postseason.
Yeah, and one more point to Zeke's question, by the way, because he asked, is it time to panic? Yeah, I'll be honest, I was a little bit panicked after the Cincinnati match because I was not seeing the flexibility that I think we're all hoping will come. I'm in a much, much better spot now with this team after the win over Monterey, the draw to Philadelphia, because we are seeing the flexibility, and we're also seeing tempo changes. Yes. Which is something that's extremely critical.
That was my issue with Cincinnati.
Completely non-existent against Cincinnati, and it's there now. We didn't quite see it at the very end against Philadelphia. There was no tempo to change. They were in first gear because they were exhausted.
Yeah.
So it's going to be okay. I really believe that. It's going to be okay. 7 teams are going to make the playoffs. Okay, Atlanta United has earned 2 league points, and they're tied for 8th right now. Yeah. 7 teams are going to make the playoffs. This is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. But CONCACAF is a real thing that saps teams. I don't think this is comparable to Toronto because Toronto had injuries, massive injuries compared to Atlanta United. That's not a comparison I would make either.
No.
But the lost time, the travel, the grinder that you had to go through playing a team like Monterey, and don't slight Ardiano either.
Nope.
It's tough. It's very tough. Okay. Time for some final thoughts here before we say good afternoon. Thank you for your questions, by the way. And we'll go back in and answer some more questions at the end of the show. All right, so let's count them. Pitti, Barco, Carlton, Miles, Tito. All on international duty. I think I'm leaving someone out.
Wesley Decas from the ATL
that's
UTD
right.
too.
Yeah, he's with the
Honduras.
Honduras, that's right. Okay, so you're going to get those guys back at some point next week. Atlanta United is going to take the weekend off. They're doing a little bit of training this week.
Today, tomorrow.
And then they're going to be off the rest of the weekend. They'll all reconvene. You're going to play Columbus. Columbus is going to play a match this weekend. 10 MLS teams are playing this weekend. Columbus is one of them. They're playing Philadelphia Union. It is at Philly, okay? Been working a little bit on Columbus, and they're pretty much the same group they had last year. Atlanta United has handled these guys very, very well.
They have. And Columbus will be missing Zardes and Will Trapp this week, along with a couple others. But those are the 2 you can watch with the U.S. tomorrow against Ecuador. I want to see how they play because those are 2 of the focal points for that team. I mean, Higuain can only do so much. I guess the biggest change this year for Columbus is Milton Valenzuela's injured. You brought in Waylon Francis. Doesn't make a huge difference in the way you play. Last match, they started Robinho in place of Justin Merrim, which was a bit of a surprise. I thought Robinho looked good, a little bit better 1v1 dribbler.
And he's a newbie, too. They brought him over from Brazil in January.
He's not the old Robinho. Don't get it twisted.
No.
I don't know where the old Robinho is these days.
Not playing, I don't think.
Yeah, well, he could be in Brazil somewhere.
Yeah.
Sometimes they play for a long
or
time.
like in China. Or like, yeah.
Maybe.
There's some old guys playing in
Maybe
China.
I'll have to see where Robinho's playing. But yeah, Columbus is essentially the same team. You'll get, just for the international schedule real quick, you'll get the Venezuelan Joseph back after Friday.
Mm-hmm.
They play Argentina in Madrid Friday afternoon, which would be one I would definitely want to watch. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully Pitti gets a game there. He goes to Morocco with Argentina Tuesday. Tito Villalba is at Red Bull Arena Friday, and then out in California on Tuesday. Miles has games Fridays and Sunday with the US U23s. I don't know Argentina's U20 schedule off the top of my head, so Barca would probably be back middle of next week. You'll get guys back a couple days ahead of the Columbus match.
By the way, Zach Steffen was called up to the U.S. men's national team camp, and he pulled out with an injury. If he remains injured for next Saturday's match in Columbus, we might see our old buddy Joe Bendick, the former keeper at Orlando City, who's now the good old Joe, the backup keeper. Last time that Joe saw Joseph Martinez, we all know what happened. So we'll cross our fingers for that. All right, so no match this weekend, but Jason and I will be at Carriage Kia of Woodstock Saturday noon to 2. Michael Parkhurst and Jeff Lorenowitz will be there as well. Yeah, so absolutely come hang out. We'll be on the air from noon to 2 Saturday. A little bit of soccer talk here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Next Saturday in Columbus, 5:30 for the Five Stripes Countdown, 6 o'clock the kickoff. And that'll be on 92.9 The Game as well. We'll have a stoppage time next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Brought to you by Aaron's, where you'll find the perfect choice for your budget and style with top names in furniture, electronics, and appliances. Get started at aarons.com or visit one of the 47 stores across the Atlanta area. For Jimmy and Jason, I'm Mike. That South Park episode was one of the most underrated of all time, I have to say, when they picked the school mascot. We'll see you next week on Stoppage Time, brought to you by Aaron's here on 92.9 The Game.